We acknowledge and respect the first humans of the unceded land we call San Francisco, the Ramaytush Ohlone. We condemn the genocide of these and other tribes across the Western Hemisphere. We honor their legacy and history, and we support rematriation and sovereignty efforts. Hey everybody, just a quick word here to let you know that we're still raising money. There's still bills to pay, and we're still an independent show. We're also helping our friends at Babylon Burning to raise funds. Their South of Market workshop and art gallery suffered a devastating fire over the weekend, so anything you can give helps them plan their future. Go to linktree/storiedsf for ways to donate to us and Babylon Burning. Thanks. Hello and welcome to Storied San Francisco. I'm your host, Jeff Hunt. We're picking back up with our series on co-ops in the city. In November, we brought you episodes on Other Avenues Grocery Cooperative in the Outer Sunset. Today and next week, we move east to the Inner Sunset's Arizmendi Bakery. In this episode, we sit down with baker-owner Sue Lopez to hear some of the history of Arizmendi, which started off as a cheese shop in Berkeley more than 50 years ago. Here's Sue.
I'm one of many founders here at this Arizmendi 9th Avenue. I think we have 5 of our founding group still here, including me. So I've been here for 22 plus years.
Wow.
And about half of the group has been here for 20 years.
Wow. Again,
yeah,
I mean,
it's kind of it's a remarkable, situation and a remarkable business. I had moved to San Francisco with my husband to finish school. Both of us to finish school at San Francisco State.
Oh, yes.
And
there's so many people. 75%, I'm going to say, of people who've been on this podcast and myself have an SF State connection.
Gators.
Go Gators. I loved that there wasn't a football team. I'm like, I already live here.
Yeah.
I want to go to college again.
That's right.
And then later I found out there's no football team, and I was like, how great.
Yeah.
And then I learned the history of SF State, and
it's a great school.
I mean, yeah.
It's a great school.
So you came here to go to State?
We came here to go to school to finish our bachelor's.
Okay.
Both in the arts. My husband's an actor. He did theater arts, and I was in the art program.
Okay.
So we're both in the art field, and that was in the late 80s, just in time for the earthquake.
Oh.
And then I kind of fell into the nonprofit art world.
Okay.
And I did that for about 10 years. I worked with Southern Exposure, which is still a thriving nonprofit in the Mission.
Yes.
And I got the nonprofit blues burnout,
Okay.
And it was a wonderful experience, but, reaching my 30s, I was like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
And then we went to Spain for a year because my husband's Catalan, and we had an opportunity to do that.
Barcelona, by any chance?
Well, we were living in Mataró, Barcelona, and the town just north called Mataró, and which is fantastic. Yeah. And then we came back from there. I looked at the nonprofit sector again, and I got like hives. And I thought maybe I'll do something else.
Well, that is another alternative business model. But,
yes.
We don't need to speak poorly of it.
No.
It's not It's not
they
a cooperative
are very
model.
well intentioned. It's just not good for the people that are in it.
Correct.
It's hard.
What I hear by and large.
Really hard work
Yeah.
to run a nonprofit.
Right.
It's a very difficult and challenging job.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that I wanted to cook. I did a couple of classes. I did a couple of internships. I worked for free for the summer at a pastry shop. And then we noticed that there was a sign up in this building while it was being renovated to turn into a bakery. So
what did it used to be before this?
A 1-hour photomat.
Okay.
And so they had already acquired the lease and were already in renovation when they were looking for their founding group.
Oh, Arizmendi had already secured the space.
The association. So the association of the Arizmendi Association of Cooperatives. They had already secured the lease.
Okay.
They were the second Arizmendi. The first Arizmendi is the Arizmendi Lakeshore on Lake Merritt. And when they opened Lake Merritt in 1997, they actually got their founding group before the spot, and they found that extremely challenging because there's so many delays and so many complicated things to try to get the group together before you have a business.
Right. A place.
So they did it the opposite. The second time around with us, they had their spot. They were already in renovation, turning this into a bakery, and then they hired a group of about 12 of us in the year 2000. We were the second Arizmendi.
Okay.
And to date, there's 5 Arizmendis.
I was going to say.
Yeah, and the third one was in Emeryville in San Pablo. That was open in 2003. And then there was a 7-year hiatus in the middle of all this .com craziness. And we got a small business loan from a local bank beneficial to open 2 bakeries in 1 year. In 2010, we opened 4th Street, which is actually in San Rafael. And in the springtime, and then in the fall we opened the Valencia shop, Arizmendi Valencia, which was the last Arizmendi.
I used to live right over there. Yeah, and I already knew this location. I knew Cheese Board, so I was like, oh, it just keeps getting closer to me. I'm not complaining.
Perfect.
And sometimes, I don't know why, maybe like if we're already over there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll go there.
Yeah.
But this is our home.
Yeah.
This is the closest to my home.
It's perfect. And we all have different things. You know, we're all started with kind of the same recipe book.
Okay.
And we're all required to have like transparency with recipes and sharing everything. But once businesses start, we're allowed to go ahead and add things, subtract things, see what works with the neighborhood.
That. Right.
You know, with your demographic.
And so as a group here, we can dig into a lot of other stuff, but what is the process of like bringing new items?
For this shop, everybody's different. Our policy is that you'll make something to share with the group, get some feelers out there. You can use all the ingredients that we have, right? We're a meat-free bakery. This shop is. The only one that actually has meat is the San Rafael shop because they saw that their demographic kind of wanted that, and they're making sandwiches over there also. Okay. So folks, they'll make something, they'll kind of test it out with the group. If the group is interested, then they get test status. Okay. You know, and then we pay ourselves to do everything to run this business. So you get paid to experiment. You bring back different batches. You get feedback from people. Then you finally go through this like cost of goods, figure out how much it might cost, where it's going to fit in the schedule, who's going to make it. You know, there's so many different decisions that need to be made. It takes a long time to do anything at a co-op, just to get everybody on the same page, but it's totally worth the
but also time. I would think kind of some of these other business models that we've talked about, in a what I call competitive model, things are just kind of handed down, and you might not have any idea why or what it is so this is very like organic, and it's from these people that you share this common interest. Yeah, exactly. It seems, and in that sense, it's not surprising to me that it takes a while because you want to do it right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. What is the last big sort of like thing that was introduced that is now maybe not every day, but is pretty common? Do you remember?
Probably this. It's a bread called No Grainer. So you might imagine it's a wheat-free wonder. Yes. It's a little beautiful, very, very tasty loaf that's full of seeds and nuts. Okay. So it's a wheat-free, gluten-free item, and we make it, I think it's baked on Tuesday, and like a lot of those gluten-free items, you can hold it for a few days. We generally don't hold stuff. We have fresh items every day. Right. But we hold those for a few days. I think there might still be like a couple of loaves. We wrap them and we wrap them up after the first day, so they're fresh when people buy them. That's the most recent one that Tanya, who you met up front, had developed. Okay. Yeah. And then what about pizza? Are pizzas, specific pizzas, kind of, how does that work? Like Ari is part of that committee, that small committee, and so they come up with a lot of ideas. Sometimes they'll post their ideas for the coming month on a calendar in the office or in the hallway. They're always looking for feedback, or we don't generally do a lot of brainstorming about pizza menu, in the meetings, but they'll encourage a lot of feedback while we're going, and it always depends on the produce that we have access to as well. Right. Or the cheeses or whatever, is going on with our deliveries. I've noticed that sometimes, maybe not every pizza in a week, but like some of them might feel seasonal. Yeah.
And that I always imagined that was on purpose.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, Sue, can we dig into the history?
Sure.
Going back to the original, which you said was Cheese Board.
It's the Cheese Board. They're the mothership.
Okay. And what do we call that part of Berkeley? I know what it perhaps used to be called.
What you were going to say it was called?
You know.
You want to make me say it? I try not to say it that much.
Is it just North Berkeley?
Sure.
There you go. North
Across
Berkeley.
the street from Chez Panisse. You
Correct.
know, it's that lovely area. It's a beautiful area.
It is.
You know,
with a median. Very important.
With the median that people
important.
used to eat pizza on.
Yeah.
Now they have a beautiful parklet.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So you don't have to eat in the median anymore.
I mean, there was something charming about that. I didn't mind.
Yes, exactly. So the Cheese Board was started in 1967 by two folks that came back they were in a kibbutz. They were locals and a couple. And they came back and they decided to open a cheese shop, which is the original location is just around the corner. It's the little, I think it's the little smoothie shop or something like that. And it was a cheese shop, and they had about 5 or 6 workers, and they started to make bread and started to make pizza. But basically, after a few years, they decided they didn't want to be bosses, and they wanted to transition the business into a worker co-op and sell it back to the people that we were working with.
Oh, wow.
So that happened in 1971. I think they became a cooperative in 1971. So for 4 years, they were kind of just growing, and then in 71, they became a co-op.
Do you know if because after hearing the story of Other Avenues, co-ops were a thing back then.
They're definitely.
Were they part of any other groups, or were they just they took that model and just went with it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if if the Cheese Board was part of any of those groups that were going on, but probably individual members were part of what was going on because it's that generation. So
and they definitely knew what was going on.
So I'm sure there was a lot of support within that cooperative community because there was so much going on in the late 60s and the early 70s, you know, and it's really fantastic that places like Other Avenues and Rainbow and the Cheese Board, you know, still exist.
Yes, it is.
Over all those times.
Mm-hmm.
Did Celia talk about the Other Avenues Are Possible book that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's definitely something to check out. Yeah. So the Cheese Board, so they became a cooperative in 1971. They continued to grow, but they made a really conscious, intentional decision to just remain a neighborhood business. They didn't want to become a chain, although it would have been co-op. They didn't want to grow and open other cheese boards. So, you know, if you jump forward to the mid 90s, there was what I've been told was there was a study group, and there was one of the cheese boarders who was one of our mentors, Steve Sucher, and a retired sociology professor, Jack Caswan, that was very much into cooperatives and helped cooperativize a bunch of housing in Berkeley, the apartment he was in, and a bunch of other buildings, and he was also part of the TNDC in the Tenderloin Development Center over here. So very much integrated with the community. So the two of them and a cooperative lawyer named Tim Hewitt, they got together in this cooperative study group along with some other people, but they decided that at that time in the mid-90s when co-ops were kind of not they weren't growing too much in the Bay Area. So they wanted to try to identify a type of co-op that they saw that was successful, and they wanted to replicate it. And since Steve was part of that book club or that study group, they decided to actually approach the Cheese Board and say, would you be willing to help support this idea that we would take your business model, because it seems like you've made this work, you know, as far as a business, a bakery.
20 some odd years at that point.
Yeah, they were 30 years.
Closer
to 30, almost 30 years old.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what I tend to say, because I get to chat with a lot of people about the history of this stuff I'm in awe of the situation, and that's what's so special about the Arizmendi Association, because you have these 3 people, including one cheese boarder, that approach the cheese boarders at a business meeting, and they're like, we'd like to basically open the competition. Will you help us?
Right.
It will be a co-op, and the cheese board, what I call the golden ticket, it's the golden moment. The cheese board said, yes, we will not only support this endeavor, we will loan you money, we will give you all our recipes, and we will train all your people.
Okay.
So it's not something that happens in the real world.
Right. Was it just like the stars aligned? Something
The stars
happened?
align, and that is why we're here today talking about the cheese board in Arizmendi.
Right.
Because it's hard to get a food business off the ground, especially cooperative from square one. So the cheese board helped Lakeshore open.
That was Lakeshore.
They took in that founding group. They interned them. Like I said, they shared all of the recipes. They had people working. The Lakeshore folks were working at the cheese board. So they basically started the association.
It's almost like we've been doing homework for 30 years. Here you go.
Kind of. Yeah, here you go, and we won't charge you for it.
Right.
You know, and
Amazing.
they did do one important business thing is that the Tim and Jack and Steve. Tim is still very involved with the organization. Jack passed on, and Steve just retired from the cheese board.
Okay.
But what they did is in studying cooperatives, they saw that kind of the most helpful thing that would happen to help these businesses thrive would be to create a support cooperative. So before the launch of Arizmendi Lakeshore, they launched a development support cooperative, which internally we call the DSC.
Okay.
The Development Support Cooperative is an organization that's staffed by potentially part-timers, people that are involved with the sister co-ops, and they're the ones that do all the legal, financial, cooperative trainings for the rest of us, right? So that was formed first.
Okay.
Then they got the Lakeshore Arizmendi off the ground, and the way that we're structured is all of the businesses share a percentage of their profits into a pot that help fund the DSC as well as help fund the future cooperatives.
Okay.
So we're all building on that.
It's amazing.
And we kind of turned the idea of a franchise on its head because like as a franchise you're in this competition mode like you're saying.
Right.
But what we do is that the more successful cooperative you are within our group, the more fees you will pay, but the less help you need.
Correct. Because you're doing okay.
And
Right.
and the more challenged you are as a business, the less fees you're paying,
The less you're paying.
and the more help you're getting.
Got it.
So it's kind of each according to their ability and each according to their need. Sound familiar?
And it's working. Look at that.
And look at that. We've
Again,
got
not
about
radical.
160 workers, including the cheese board.
And how many locations?
And it's 5 Arizmendis, 1 cheese board, because
Okay.
the cheese board shared everything except for their name.
Sure.
So we had to come up with our own name, which I'm not sure you know the
I was
background of
going
the
to ask,
name.
and I'd love to know that.
So Arizmendi is an homage to a priest from Spain that helped found the largest cooperative system in the planet called Mondragon.
Okay.
And he was born as a coincidence. I looked it up once. Contemporary of Jack Caswan.
Okay.
So he was during the Civil War. He was assigned to a small town in the Basque Country, and he knew that the way to help those people during that post war-torn time was not to preach, but to help job creation. So that's why he got very much into cooperatives.
Okay.
So his name was Jose Maria Arizmendi Arrieta,
Okay.
because Basque names have like 20
Correct.
letters, mostly consonants. So we shortened it, called Arizmendi. Lakeshore took that first name, Arizmendi. The second Arizmendi, which is the one I'm at 9th Avenue, was given the choice because there was only one Arizmendi and it was on the other side of the bay. Do you want
Right.
Arizmendi or you want to come up with your own name? And we went with it. And once you had 2 Arizmendis, the rest needed to be Arizmendi because we still believe in branding. We're taking a lot of what's good of a franchise, right? But putting it to good use.
Well, brands carry weight. I
Yes,
feel like, and
exactly.
they have meaning.
Exactly.
You hope.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on it, but let's hear more about the story of opening this one. I think you got us to. You saw, and because this was your involvement, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
you saw the sign here?
The sign that was up. They were doing what we normally do when we open cooperatives is we'll have a sign up saying there's a co-op coming to your community. We're going to have a community meeting. Come if you're interested to learn about cooperatives. Come if you want to apply for a job.
Okay.
And at that meeting, they'll have representatives from the other bakeries, from the DSC. They'll talk about stuff. At the end of that meeting, they'll pass out applications for anybody that's interested. So that's how I got involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it scary?
No. I mean, in my arts in my arts work, I was doing, Southern Exposure used to be a Project Arto Corporation.
Yes.
Which is a cooperative.
And Project Arto is still there. I've
Project
recorded.
Arto and Southern Exposure moved.
Correct.
Down the block.
Yeah.
So I was very familiar with cooperatives from that viewpoint. And I didn't have a lot of training baking and pastry, but I was really interested, and what's great about Arizmendi is we're willing to just hire people that are willing to learn. You don't need to have the experience of already having done this work before. We're not looking for professional bakers.
Right.
So I was just excited more than anything. And I thought one day I would move along and open my own business. And then, I've drunk the Kool-Aid, so I would have turned it into a co-op after opening it and doing what I wanted to do, which was something a little different from this. And I tried that halfway through. At year 10, I took a sabbatical and I gave it a shot. And then I realized how cutthroat things were in San Francisco, how real estate is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to come back, to
without
this.
that support.
Right. Without the support. Here. So it really opened my eyes to, I already knew that co-ops were it's just like a hidden gem in the community, that folks should be learning about this business model in business school. There's no reason why not.
Right.
But because we're in the United States, a lot of folks don't. Co-ops are a little bit more familiar in a lot of other countries, Latin America especially, in Europe, I'm told. So it just depends on, what folks are exposed to and what they think of as a co-op. I think what's really important with the Arizmendi cooperatives is that we have kind of turned people's opinions of this like hippy-dippy co-op, who wants to make a profit, it doesn't really matter. We want to be community-minded, but we need to be a very fiscally viable business in order to support the people that run it.
Like a foundation.
Yeah.
You need to make a little bit of money.
You need to do that. And the reason that we've been able to create such a good quality of life here for folks, and they're so invested in the business, which creates such a financially successful business for us, So we're taking that cooperative model, which just means one person, one vote, and putting it in this capitalistic system that we have, but trying to do it in the best way possible,
I'm going to say it's working.
Yeah.
Just going to go out on a limb there. Fun, total side story, but when you were talking about opening businesses in San Francisco, and perhaps especially around food, before I started this podcast, I was between things, and I am from Texas, and I love breakfast tacos, and I've wondered for 22 years that I've lived here why we don't have them. So I started making my salsas. I knew you got to start with salsas, and then whatever. And I actually learned how to make pretty good green and red salsa. And then at that point, I really started thinking about and looking into what it takes. And I had a borderline panic attack. I was like, no, let me fall back on storytelling and podcasts, which I know how to do and I love. So,
That's
yeah.
great.
And
That's great.
there are a few folks who are doing breakfast tacos now. I'm starting to see it a little bit.
So you can find it. So you can find them.
Yeah. And they're good. We have everything here.
Yeah.
We have really good quality ingredients. But anyway, so I do, even though I haven't taken many steps down that road, I know a lot of business owners to varying degrees of success, and it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy.
No. Kudos to anybody that really is a small business owner, and it is just so much work. And when I'm not sure, and either Lizzie or Ari had a moment to comment on it, but we started this business even as a new business with 6 weeks vacation for each worker.
Yep, it can be done.
Because we set what we wanted this business to be, and then we matched it with our sales.
Right.
So now we do have 6 weeks vacation plus 1 week, off between Christmas and New Year. So basically we have 7 weeks off a year.
Amazing.
So, when you do that type of a thing and you're able to kind of say, I'm a business owner of this co-op, I'm doing profit sharing, one person, one vote, I have a say in everything that's going on, I'm leaving for Barcelona for 6 weeks, see ya. And no email, no texting, nothing. And to have the freedom to do that as a business owner and not even worry about things because you trust the folks that are running the business.
You're all in it equally.
We're all in it equally. Yeah.
And that's important.
We're all in it equally, and everybody's really pulling their fair share. So, yeah, my heart goes out to small business owners, especially around the holidays.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'll pick up an application on my way out. Perhaps, I mean, it doesn't have to be the end, but it's one of the last things I'm thinking of. Can you speak to this community that you're all very much a part of? You're a staple of this community. Can you speak to
the Inner Sunset?
The Inner Sunset.
The Inner Sunset's great. It's been so good to us. Our community is it's really above and beyond. It's been a wonderful gift for our business, and they're so supportive about everything we've done, whether it's needed price increases because it's cost of goods, or that we've shut our doors and we're doing stuff out the windows, or that something's broken down, or that we're going to close between Christmas and New Year's when everybody wants to bring their family and friends. So it's a wonderful community, and we are a retail small business in a small community. We don't do wholesale. So we really rely on all of these people, and we know so many of their names. We've seen so many of their kids grow up, so it's just been a privilege to be part of the community, and we get cards from folks. We get cards, thank you cards during the pandemic. Somebody just moved away and sent us a card just saying how much he loved us, and he was moving away with, a modest amount of cash, a little bit for everybody, like just a little gifty.
Wow.
It's very
Amazing.
sweet, very sweet community, and just it's been really lovely, really
Nice.
Wonderful to be here. Yeah.
Anything you want to tell listeners about anything that Arizmendi, this location, is doing? Let's say in December.
In December, we have we have fruitcake already. That's in the bourbon or brandy, whatever it is we dunk it in so many times. That's in process. A lot of fruitcakes. Lorenzo, who's working today, actually makes a finite, because it's such hard work, finite amount of panettones that are the best you'll ever find.
Okay.
He makes excellent panettone, one big batch, and then they're gone for the season. We also have Stollen, the German cake with the marzipan filling. An array of holiday cookies, singles or little bags, or in tins. That's the majority, and then we'll have right around Christmas time, we'll have I think a chocolate hazelnut mousse cake we make too, and a bûche de Noël.
Just gonna go straight to dessert now.
I know. It's pretty wonderful to be around here around the holidays. It's really festive. It's really really fun, and we don't all that said about vacations, there's no vacation allowed in December. So it's all hands on deck. Everybody's here, so we're fully staffed. Everybody's around, and it's fun. It's just fun to be here. We'll probably do some decorating, although there's not even any customers in the store yet. So it's great. It's a great time to be here. Yeah.
Anything else that could be the end? Anything else I'm missing?
No. Thank you for your interest, and for just helping us give a little bit of voice to the co-op community. There's so many great co-ops out there. There's an organization called NOBAWC, NOBAWC.
Okay.
And it's the Northern Bay Area Worker Co-op organization. If you look them up, they'll have all the listings of all the co-ops in the Bay Area.
I think there's a map up at Other Avenues that she showed me that must be theirs. Okay.
And we have the map in our office, and you could find it. And we have links to it from our website as well as a lot more information about Father Jose. So there's a lot of links on the website, and just so many great co-ops, and a lot. I feel like there's a lot more co-ops that are coming. We get a lot of emails and folks that are interested in tips, and the association does what they can to support as many people, with information about bylaws or legal stuff or finance or how do you do a meeting and facilitation and all that.
Wonderful.
Type of good co-op stuff. It's a lot of work because you have to compromise. Compromise and communication is what a co-op is all about.
And you have to also kind of advocate for your ideas, right? That's one thing I talked about with Celia is that's built into the process.
It's built into the process, but it's definitely, I think like one of the ladies, Lizzie or Ari, had said, it spills into your life. Like when you're working in a democratic workplace, then that spills into your life. And as I had, Van Jones did a really beautiful little 15-minute thing that you could look up and about democracy, and he reflected that democracies are really fragile, super fragile, and that's why co-ops, it's a lot easier to have a boss and be like, just tell me what to do. It's more difficult to try to agree with 22 people on what color the walls should be. So,
what brand of soap to get in the bathroom?
You opened a can of worms. I mistakenly got lavender once.
Oh, how dare you,
Oh,
Sue.
I know.
How dare you.
But it is so worth it. And
yeah.
I think we're not used to that kind of compromise and communication in our lives.
Right.
So it does spill over, and it is so worth every single challenge.
That was Sue Lopez. Please join us next week to hear from two other Arizmendi bakers, Lizzie Harvey and Ari Swenson. Music for Storied San Francisco was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Michelle Kilfeather does original photography for us. Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast is our contributing producer. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 5th season, we have more than 200 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're able to, please rate and review the show. And drop us a line at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay strong, weird, and healthy. And we'll see you next time on Storied San Francisco.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcasts.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.